large rise over the last year. The Home Affairs Committee was told, this is an unbelievable figure, that up to 2% of the entire male population of Albania aged between 20 and 40, this is 10,000 men, have arrived on small boats this year in this country. The reason they're arriving on small boats is they can't go through the visa process because they have broken the law. These men, we're not talking about economic migrants, people escaping war-torn areas. We're talking about 10,000 Albanian criminals disappearing into our society, dealing in drugs, sex trafficking, weaponry, all sorts of terrible things. And it is absolutely shocking that this is happening. We're not talking about housing them in hotels. We're not talking about the moral idea. We're talking about criminals coming into this country. Now, an hour ago, I spoke to Mr. Anwar, a defence lawyer, who said that it's about the law. And these people should be getting the same treatment as anybody else. There's a prosecution, there's defence, and there's a judge. A lot of you, masses of you, millions of you actually, really, really frustrated with this situation, that a government cannot do something about it. The successive governments have failed miserably to come up with a system that allows this to happen. I'm delighted to be joined now by an MP actually for North Thanet, and to be able to talk to Sir Roger Gale about something other than Boris Johnson. Sir Roger, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
I just want to start because I had a defence lawyer on who told me I know nothing about anything because he refuses to accept that people have a right to an opinion. The Times article this week and this figure, I'm not talking about the cost of housing for other migrants. I am talking specifically, Sir Roger, about 10,000 Albanian male criminals coming in on small boats, infesting our country and committing crime. Do you not think, as an MP in that sort of area, because I'm hearing from hundreds of people today, that is an absolutely dreadful thing to be happening in 2022 in the United Kingdom?
Jeremy, you are fairly plain and straight talking, and you know so am I. And actually, what you've just said is emotive, corrosive, offensive drivel. There are not 10,000 Albanian criminals coming in.
There aren't.
Hang on, either we're going to have a sensible conversation about this or we're not. If we're going to have a sensible conversation, yes, there are serious issues that need to be addressed. But don't start using Nigel Farage's language, because I'll switch off.
So you're telling me there aren't 10,000 migrants from Albania, criminals who have come into this country?
That is not what you said. Yeah, you said 10,000 criminals.
10,000 Albanian migrant men between 20 and 40, 2% of their population.
We've now taken the argument down a notch. We're now talking about 10,000 Albanian men. That is correct. But don't describe them emotively and irrationally as 10,000 criminals, because they aren't.
They're not criminals. They're not criminals.
There are no doubt within them some people who have committed offences in Albania. That has to be dealt with. But let's have a sensible conversation about this.
All right, let's have a sensible question then. If let's say 10,000 Albanian men arrive, Sir Roger, on boats. Let me put this to you then, if you want a sensible conversation. If they're not criminals, why don't they go through the process of gaining a visa and coming to this country legally?
The answer to that is, as with every other, and you said these are not economic migrants. Those are your words. Actually, they are economic migrants, and they can't get visas, and they wouldn't be able to get in legally. Quite properly, they wouldn't be able to get in legally, and that's why they're coming through illegal routes. Now, do I find that wrong? Yes, of course I do. But let's get this onto an even keel and start talking about the real issue.
Well, the real issue is...
Hang on, the complexion of the people who are coming into the country by boat has changed dramatically in the last probably 8 to 10 weeks. Prior to that, we were talking about refugees from Afghanistan, from Syria, from war-torn regimes. Of course, the Ukrainians are coming in legally. That's a separate issue. I'm not seeking to condone it, but nevertheless, I can understand why people from Afghanistan, for example, were coming in. That has changed in the last probably 8 weeks, from the people that were coming in to now very large numbers of young Albanian men coming from a regime that is perfectly safe. I've been to Albania several times myself when I was on the Council of Europe. I know the country. It's a democratic country. Okay, it's still developing, but it's a democratic country.
It is.
And they are coming in wholly illegally. That is wrong.
Right, let's cut to the chase with that then. Let's agree on one thing. Last year, the Home Office, and we've seen so much this week about your new man allowing Suella Braverman, I don't even want to talk about that, 4% of applications from last year have been processed. You and I would agree on this, Sir Roger. I'm not blaming Rishi Sunak, I'm not blaming Boris Johnson or Liz Truss, I'm blaming successive governments. Do you not, as a member of this country, find it absolutely grating and appalling that we do not seem to still have a system that can deal with this problem, because it isn't going away, and whether politicians like it or not, it's the number one thing that people want to talk about. Why is it seemingly so impossible, Sir Roger, to come up with an answer?
The reason that we haven't got an answer is because we've taken completely the wrong approach. Successive Home Secretaries, Mrs. Patel and now Mrs. Braverman, are wedded to the idea that you can ship people off to Rwanda and that's going to solve the problem. It won't. One, it won't work. Two, it's not legal. And three, it will be hugely costly, even if it were to work at all.
What would work?
I would be very surprised if 300 people were sent to Rwanda between now and whenever.
OK, let's do what we accuse the Labour Party the whole time of doing. What would you say is the answer to a situation whereby, and let me just say this, Roger, you took exception to me saying criminals. I maintain, maybe not all 10,000, but I maintain there are criminals within that number. But let's look at the whole process. You've described Albania, and I've had loads of texts about this, as a democratic country. For some reason, in a democratic country, OK, it seems to be still attractive to come to a country that's frankly on its knees and its people are frustrated and hacked off with how difficult it is. That is not hyperbole. That is an absolute fact. What would you do or say to the people listening and watching today who say, why the hell can we not have systems in place to stop this happening because the people are getting fed up? What would you say?
Because whether you like it or not, and I like it or not, and I don't, well, I don't mind the international law, but I don't like the way that it's working at the moment. We have to abide by international law. What we've done up until now, basically, the last two homes, well, the current and the previous Home Secretary, have adopted what I have described as dog whistle policies. It's populist, it's playing to the gallery, it's meeting the answers to the people who are saying, I don't like, there's too many bloody foreigners in this country and I don't like them. That is not the way to approach this. If we're going to solve the problem, and we've got to, we have to do it on a pan-European basis. We have to work with the French. We have to establish proper relationships. And we have to make sure that there is a system in place that means that the southern borders of Europe are not porous in the way that they are at the moment. Because actually, it's not only Europe. If you come from the Dominican Republic, if you come from Guadeloupe, which is a French overseas territory, you're in the European Union. And you might just as well be at Calais waiting for a boat to come across the channel. And by the way, these people are not coming from camps in Calais.
No.
I discovered yesterday when I visited Manston, a lot of them, the overwhelming majority of the Albanians, are paying large sums of money, are being trafficked through, the Home Secretary told me I wasn't to use the word traffic, but my view is that it is being trafficked. They're being trafficked through Germany and Belgium. They overnight in Germany or Belgium, literally cross the beach.
Do you understand people's frustration that we are the final destination? You know, I hear all this rubbish.
I do, yes, absolutely I do.
I hear all this rubbish about war. Listen, I said it earlier. You know, actually, I'm going to take you to task. Well, I'm not going to take you to task, Roger. The viewers are going to take you to task big time.
That's fine by me.
You want to get in the real world. This is about 100 people. If the Albanians are entering our country, please ask this of Sir Roger, illegally, as you admit, then they're by definition criminals, aren't they, Sir Roger?
No, not in the sense that you've sought to say. I mean, you were talking about the implication is, you know, these people are knife-carrying rapists and murderers. No, they're not. They're on exactly.
But there are many who are from organised gang culture.
They're on exactly the same. I was going to say plane. I didn't mean aeroplane. They're on exactly the same level as Afghanistan's or people.
I do think there is. I do believe, though. Sorry, we'll agree to disagree. I do believe a large number of them come from organised gangs, and I think they infiltrate. Going back to it, whether it's Home Secretary, what?
Produce the evidence. There's no evidence to suggest that. There are organised criminals trafficking them into.
So they're criminals.
No, the people who are trafficking them most certainly are criminals.
But if they weren't doing, but if they're going down the human trafficking route, this is what I don't understand. I'm like, you said to me, you'll switch off. I need you to answer this question. If they are going down the human trafficking route and they're not really vulnerable, are they? I understand if you're leaving a war-torn country and a human trafficker says to you, I can find you a better life. But if you come from, as you describe it, a democratic country, and you're saying they're not criminals, why don't they go down the bloody visa route? Why are they going down the human trafficking route?
Because, Jeremy, they won't get visas. And
why?
You can't differentiate between... You talked about criminality and you said, well, these people are criminal because they're using a criminal route. Well, I'm sorry, on that basis, the Afghans and the Syrians are also criminals because they're using a criminal route, in your terms, your words, not mine. I don't regard that as criminal. I regard the people who are trafficking them as highly criminal, making a lot of money out of human misery, and they need to be dealt with.
Do you say that entering a country...
We've got to have, if we're going to solve this, we have to have a grown-up solution.
Yeah.
Not a dog whistle one, not a populist one, not something that plays to the lowest common denominator.
Do you believe Suella Braverman's the answer? Do you believe Suella Braverman's the answer?
I have already said very clearly, I mean, say what you like about the reappointment of Suella Braverman. I don't want to go into that now. But I have already said in terms to her face a week ago in the House of Commons during her first incarnation as Home Secretary that I do not agree with her immigration policy because I think that it won't work and I think it is dog whistle and I think it's wrong. We need a grown-up solution to this, and that means that putting in the heavy lifting, the hard work to build the relationships. And I know it's got the word Europe in it, and I know some people find that offensive, but we actually have to work with our European colleagues if we're going to crack this problem properly and once and for all.
So, Roger Gale, thank you as ever, MP for North Thanet. Always a pleasure to have you on. You lot got right wound up, and I will finish by simply saying this, because I agree with you all. I believe that if you enter a country illegally, you're a criminal. Loads of you getting really wound up. Sir Roger Gale is demonstrating the middle-class contempt of the concerns of working-class people whose communities, Jez, are hit hard by mass, uncontrolled immigration. In my mind, it's only when we accommodate the dingy folk in leafy middle-class houses and streets that this problem will disappear. Sir Roger Gale is incredibly naive. He talks about dog whistle and populist immigration policy being wrong. He misses the point. The majority of people in this country want this sorted. They're sick and tired of how soft we seem to be. It's interesting, isn't it? When you do a show like this, certain things garner massive response. And this matters to you. Every single person has a right to an opinion. Interesting with the defence law, interesting with Roger when I said that, I'm going to switch off. There is not. What did he say? There is no proof. There is absolute proof. And somebody's put it really nicely here. I said it to him. If you're not a criminal, pay your £5,000, or why pay £5,000 to get on a dinghy? Why not go through the visa? He said it himself. They can't get visas because they've got a track record. That's the way it is. To the phone lines, you lot are well wound up. Kevin's in North Yorkshire. Kev, good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
Good morning. Fine, thank you, on this wet morning. I just wanted to say that arrogance of these people is just... It's mind-bendingly frustrating. I wondered how long before he'd use the word populist and mention that people that didn't like Europe will get frustrated by it. It's just obvious where these people are coming from. It was particularly, I think it was probably my comment you picked up on was regards to, on one hand he starts by saying they're not criminals and then he says that they illegally enter the country. The arrogance of these people is blinding. They take us for fools. They treat us like morons, and they think that by using the word populist and by saying that dog whistles, and the only people using dog whistles is themselves. They just will not listen. They will not take note of what people who are experiencing these problems are going through, and that the nation is suffering because of it. It is not a thing that this country can tolerate any longer, and they are going to lose the election because of it. The next election, they are gone. If they do not deal with this issue, they are gone. They're wasted.
It's interesting. You're in North Yorkshire. Mark, who I'm going to read his message. At 7 o'clock, I had Amir Anwar on, a criminal defence lawyer, who told me I know nothing about the legal system and these people should, in fact, be defended. I tried to say to him, look, do you understand people's concerns who are paying their taxes, who can't get a doctor's appointment, they can't get a dentist, they can't afford their mortgages, they can't heat their homes. Their tax is being spent on defence lawyers like you, sir, defending illegal immigrants. I said to Sir Roger Gale. They're not criminals. Mark in North Yorkshire says, yet again we are being told by greedy lawyers and condescending MPs that these people are not illegal immigrants when we all know they are, and that they're coming here to better their circumstances. Get in the queue then with the people legally, great word, trying to enter the UK. This is nothing short of an invasion, and leaders are doing absolutely nothing. And Mark in North Yorkshire says, you know, this is the point, because our leaders are not listening. Isn't it, Stephen Stoke? This Roger Gale is exactly our problem. He's not mixing in the world I am. I can see the Albanians setting up drug lines, shops opening everywhere with no custom, money laundering. I can't say what you all said. Jeremy, let's send the migrants to Sir Roger Gale's neighbourhood. I suspect he'll change his tune. Am I right or am I wrong, Kev? There seems to be this sort of, oh, it'll be fine. And if you people don't seem to be able, well, people in authority don't seem to be able to differentiate between a migrant who absolutely should come to this country from a war-torn area. We proved ourselves with Ukraine, and we have a moral duty as a country. You can't tell me, you can't tell me in any way, sack me then, you can't tell me Albanian criminals should be able to get here, get defence and have a life. It's absolute rubbish.
He mentioned again that the Afghans and the others that were coming through were not criminals. I'm sorry, if you enter a country from a country of safety, another country, and you enter it illegally, you are a criminal. So yes, those people are criminals. I don't care what country they're coming from. I'm not a person that wants to see people suffering. No. I'm not a person that wants to see people who genuinely need help and support, like the Ukrainians. You know, they need that support. They need that help. We've got a history for over generations of doing that. We've been a world leader in doing that. But what we don't need is illegal immigrants flooding the borders, flooding our finances, and creating criminal issues in this country. And the quicker they get to grips with that issue, and the quicker they realise that people have had enough, they will win an election. They would win an election on that one thing alone. I can promise you that.
I fear that whatever the political party, Kev, there seems to be this, I don't know whether there seems to be this refusal to accept there's an issue. Nobody, so I gave him 5 nobody can give me the answer. And I find it rather embarrassing that our country, what did somebody say earlier, we're the 5th or 6th largest country, most prosperous country in the world. Forget that. We cannot, between us all, work out a system, right, that says that this is fundamentally wrong. Somebody said to me, oh, you're spreading unfairness. What do you mean I'm spreading unfairness? Try explaining that to people in the north of England who can't afford to pay. It's absolute rubbish. Listen, Kev, thank you so much from North Yorkshire. Jeremy's in London. Yes, he is. Hello, Jeremy.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Hello, good morning, Jeremy. You're in London. Yes.
Yes. Jeremy, the one thing that's unfolding that I don't think people realise, and I'm so glad and thank you for discussing this issue this morning, is we're talking about Albanians. There's illegal immigration unfolding that people don't even realise. It's a very sporadic reports you'll get of it, but off the Norfolk and Suffolk coasts, you've got fishing vessels bringing Albanians over. So the numbers coming here, we don't really know, obviously, but they're coming in. They're not being stopped, and what they do is they're coming onto beaches in Suffolk and Norfolk, and they're coming literally by the hundreds every single month. People don't realise that. They're also coming in on light aircraft, and these are people that don't want to be found.
But they're not criminals, according to Sir Roger Gale.
Well, this is what I don't understand, and I don't understand why the fear. Obviously, no, but these are human beings. Of course, I understand that.
Yes.
What we've got here is an element, the criminality that's going on. They're bringing in drugs and weapons.
Absolutely.
We've actually seen them, and this is what worries me, Jeremy, is that people. This is why it's so brave of you and your, Talk TV, is that you're actually speaking about this and you're unafraid to speak about it. And I think people need to realise that it's not just in Dover, because the 10,000, we know about them. I spend a lot of time in Dover, and you see I've been there when 1,000 have come in one day. And they're mostly young men. And you think, well, where are their families, etc.? But we don't know who they are.
I completely agree, and I also want to make the point, because people will say, "Oh, this is really unfair." I absolutely will repeat for the 435th time this morning that we should, as a country and a nation, be able to look after people who come from those war-torn areas. But whatever Sir Roger Gale and the defence lawyer say, there is absolutely definitive proof that large numbers of Albanian male known criminals are getting into this country, be it on light aircraft or whatever it is, right? And the fact of the matter is they're getting defence lawyers, they're getting all sorts of stuff. And whether I get accused of whatever, here's what I'm going to say to Sir Roger and the defence lawyer. The people, like Jeremy in London, like the guy from North Yorkshire, all these people are hacked off. And unless politicians and officials start to listen, I don't know what's going to happen. I got to go. Great name. Fantastic to have you on. Jeremy in London. More of your calls coming up. 0344 499 1000. Good morning, Jez. I'm so sick of the same claptrap from politicians. They are criminals entering our country illegally. Otherwise, they would enter via legal routes. It's very worrying for the future, and not just cannot believe that asking a British taxpayer to house them or to pay for their defence is right. People don't seem to understand this is getting worse.